My name is Jack. I live in a small town in the USA. It's a quiet place with just a few people, but the trees are green and tall, and the birds sing every morning. I've always loved stories, especially the ones my grandmother used to tell me when I was little. She had a way of making words come to life, like they were dancing in the air, and I could see the story in my mind like a movie. But let me tell you, my journey with English was not an easy one. I remember the day clearly like it was yesterday. I was sitting under the big oak tree in my backyard feeling frustrated. I couldn't understand English as well as I wanted to, and every time I tried, it felt like a mountain too big to climb. "Why is it so hard?" I whispered to myself, kicking at a pebble. Then, something amazing happened. My friend Lucy walked over, carrying a book. She looked at me with a bright smile and said, "Jack, do you want to learn English?" In a fun way, her eyes sparkled like she held a secret, and I couldn't help but feel curious. "What's the secret?" I asked, leaning closer, feeling a spark of hope. She laughed softly and opened the book. "Stories," she said simply. "Stories can help you learn. Just listen, feel the words, and let the magic work." At first, I thought she was joking. How could stories teach me English? But Lucy was serious, and she began reading a story. As I listened, I realized something amazing. My mind was relaxed, not stressed, and somehow the words started making sense. The first story was simple, about a little boy who wanted to fly like a bird. As I listened, I imagined the boy standing on the hill, his eyes wide with wonder, his heart filled with dreams. Suddenly, I felt a connection to him, like he was a friend. I wanted to know if he could fly, if he could reach the sky. And just like that, I was hooked. Every word became important, every sentence was a new adventure. That's when I knew learning English didn't have to be hard or boring. It could be exciting, like stepping into a new world. Now let me tell you why stories are so powerful. When you listen to a story, you're not just hearing words, you're feeling emotions, imagining places, and living through the characters. Stories make you laugh, cry, feel afraid, or excited. They make your heart beat faster. They're like a roller coaster for your mind, taking you up and down, twisting and turning. And as you go through this ride, you're learning English without even trying. The words stick in your mind because they're wrapped in emotions. It's like eating chocolate sweet, but you don't realize you're also getting energy. I want you to imagine this a story about a young girl who's afraid of the dark. Every night she hears strange sounds like whispers in the shadows. She's scared, but one night she decides to face her fear. She steps out of bed, heart pounding, and opens the door to find ... Can you feel the suspense? Are you curious about what happens next? This curiosity, this feeling, is what makes stories powerful. They pull you in, make you want to know more. And that's how you learn. You listen closely, you pay attention to every word, every feeling, and without realizing it, you're learning English. English is not just a language, it's a bridge to the world. It lets you talk to people from different places, understand new ideas, and see the world in a new way. Imagine traveling to another country, meeting people who speak English, and being able to share your thoughts with them. Imagine reading books, watching movies, and singing songs in English, understanding every word. Doesn't that sound exciting? That's why learning English is important, and stories can help you get there. As Lucy kept reading to me, I started feeling like I was flying. The words became wings, lifting me into a world of dreams and adventures. One story led to another, and each one taught me new words, new ways to say things, and new feelings. Sometimes I laughed, sometimes I cried. There was a story about a brave knight who fought a dragon, another about a little girl who saved her village, and each one made me feel like I was part of something big, something magical. The words were like friends, guiding me through a journey, helping me understand English in a way that no classroom ever could. One night, Lucy shared a story that touched my heart deeply. It was about a boy named Tim who lived with his grandmother. They were very poor, but they had each other. Every day, Tim would bring his grandmother flowers he picked from the field, and she would tell him stories about the stars. One day, she fell ill, and Tim was scared. He wanted to find a way to make her better, to see her smile again. As I listened, my eyes filled with tears. I could feel Tim's fear, his love, and his hope. I understood every word, not because I knew English perfectly, but because the story spoke to my heart. And that's when I realized learning English from stories wasn't just about words. It was about feelings, about understanding life, and about connecting with others. As Lucy finished the story, she looked at me with a gentle smile and asked, "Did you understand?" I nodded, wiping my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. "I understand." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tim and his grandmother, and I knew I wanted to learn more. I wanted to listen to every story, to feel every word, to live every adventure, because each story was teaching me something new, something real, something powerful. If you're reading this, I want you to know that you can learn English too. You don't need a big dictionary or a strict teacher. All you need is a story and an open heart. Listen closely, feel the words, and let them guide you. You'll find yourself learning without even trying, just like I did. And one day you'll look back and realize that English has become a part of you, just like a beautiful memory, just like a friend. So, would you like to continue the journey with me? Shall we step into another story, filled with mystery, laughter, and maybe even a little bit of magic? Because there's a story waiting for you right here, ready to take you on an adventure you'll never forget. Lucy and I spent many evenings like that, under the big oak tree, her voice weaving stories into the warm air. She'd read from books, sometimes making up tales on the spot, and I'd sit there hanging on to every word, feeling like I was diving into a new world each time. One evening, just as the sun was setting and the sky turned orange and purple, Lucy opened a book with a blue cover. She held it close, as if it was precious, and said, "This is my favorite story. It's called The Lost Key." My heart raced a little when I heard the title. The Lost Key. What was lost? Why was it important? I leaned forward, curiosity already pulling me in. Lucy smiled, knowing she had my attention, and began reading. The story was about a young girl named Emily who lived in a quiet village by the sea. Emily's father was a fisherman, and he'd often come home with tales of the waves, the storms, and the creatures he'd seen in the ocean. But one day he found something strange, a small, old key covered in seaweed, hidden in the sand. Emily was fascinated by it. She believed that the key had a story of its own, maybe even magical. She started to dream about finding the lock it could open, a door to a hidden treasure or a secret world. Listening to Lucy, I felt like I was walking beside Emily, searching for the mysterious lock. I could see the small key in my mind, rusty but beautiful, with a design that looked ancient, as if it had been waiting for someone to find it for a long time. My heart beat a little faster with every sentence, and I couldn't help but wonder, will Emily find what she's looking for? What lies behind the locked door? As Lucy turned each page, the story grew more exciting. Emily searched high and low, asking people in the village, exploring caves, and even diving into the sea. I felt her excitement, her determination, and even her fear. There were moments when the sea was rough, and I could almost feel the cold water splashing on my face, hear the waves crashing around us. I was scared for Emily, but I also wanted her to find what she was looking for. I wanted her to find the hidden world, the treasure, or whatever the key was meant to open. Lucy's voice was soft but powerful, carrying the story to my heart. And I realized something that night. Every story has a lesson, a hidden message waiting for you to discover it. Through Emily's adventure, I learned about hope, about believing in something even if you can't see it. I learned that sometimes the journey itself is the real treasure, the adventure of searching, discovering, and growing. And as I listened, I found myself learning more English words, understanding more deeply than ever before. The emotions in the story made the words stick in my mind, like they were painted there with bright colors. When Lucy finished reading, I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "What happens next?" I asked, desperate to know if Emily ever found the secret. Lucy smiled mysteriously and closed the book. "Sometimes the best stories don't give us all the answers," she said, her eyes twinkling. "They leave us with questions, so we can dream our own ending." I sat there, thinking about Emily and her key, feeling a strange mixture of joy and sadness. I wanted to keep going, to find the ending, but I also felt satisfied. It was like I had shared Emily's journey, felt her hopes and fears, and in doing so, I had learned something more precious than just English. I had learned the power of curiosity, of patience, of letting a story lead me wherever it wanted. The next day, I was eager to listen again. I ran to the oak tree, waiting for Lucy, wondering what new story she would bring. But when she arrived, she handed me the book. "Today you're going to read to me," she said, her smile encouraging but challenging. My heart skipped a beat. Me? Read? Out loud? I was scared. What if I made mistakes? What if I couldn't understand the words? But Lucy's eyes were warm, filled with trust, and something in me wanted to try. I opened the book, my hands shaking a little, and began to read. The words felt strange on my tongue at first, like I was learning to walk all over again. But Lucy listened quietly, her face relaxed, and with each word I felt my confidence growing. I stumbled a few times, but she didn't mind. In fact, she just smiled and nodded, encouraging me to keep going. As I read, I felt the story coming to life in a new way. I wasn't just hearing it, I was saying it, creating it with my voice, shaping the images with my own words. I was part of the magic, part of the world unfolding before us. And as I read, I forgot about my fears, forgot about making mistakes. I was Emily, holding the key, searching for something hidden, something beautiful. The story was no longer just in the book, it was in me, filling my heart with excitement and joy. When I finished, Lucy clapped softly, her eyes shining. "See," she whispered. "You can do it. You're learning, Jack. You're learning English through stories, just like I knew you would." Her words filled me with pride and happiness. I realized then that English was not a mountain too big to climb. It was a river, flowing with stories, emotions, and dreams, and I was learning to swim in it, one story at a time. That night I sat by my window, looking at the stars, feeling a strange peace in my heart. I thought about all the stories Lucy had shared, about Emily and her key, about Tim and his grandmother, about the boy who wanted to fly. Each story had left a piece of itself in my heart, teaching me not only English but life itself, love, hope, courage, dreams. And I knew that this was just the beginning. There were endless stories waiting for me, each one with a new lesson, a new adventure, a new dream. Would you like to continue with me? Shall we step into the next story together, ready for whatever lies beyond? Because there's more to discover, and the journey has only just begun. The next few weeks were some of the happiest days of my life. Every day, Lucy and I would sit under the oak tree, diving into new stories. Each one felt like a treasure chest, filled with lessons, laughter, and dreams. The stories weren't just helping me learn English, they were changing me. I was becoming more confident, more curious, and more open to the world around me. One day, Lucy brought a very old book with pages that were yellowed with age. She looked at me and said, "This story is special, Jack. It's the story of a boy named Daniel, who dreamed of finding a hidden land where people spoke in a language of the heart. They didn't use words to speak, they used feelings, colors, even sounds. But to get there, he had to go through 3 tests. As Lucy began to read, I felt like I was being pulled into a dream. I could see Daniel in my mind, a small boy with wide eyes and a heart full of courage. His first test was to cross a dark forest, where shadows whispered fears into his ears. As Lucy described it, I could feel the chill of the forest, the uncertainty and the fear. But Daniel didn't give up. He took one step, then another, pushing through the darkness until he saw a faint light. The second test was even harder. Daniel had to climb a mountain covered in mist, and every time he climbed, he'd slip and fall. But he kept going, thinking about the hidden land on the other side, the place where people understood each other without words. I could feel his exhaustion, his determination, and I found myself cheering for him, my heart pounding. Finally, he reached the last test, the hardest one of all. He had to look into a mirror and face his deepest fears. As he stared into his reflection, he saw every doubt, every insecurity, every painful memory. I could feel his hesitation, the way he almost turned away. But then he did something incredible. He looked deeper, past the fear, and saw the light within himself, the strength he didn't know he had, the courage hiding inside. With that, the mirror shattered, and Daniel found himself in the hidden land he had dreamed of. Lucy closed the book, her voice soft, and I sat there, stunned. I felt like I had been on the journey with Daniel, like his fears were my fears, his courage my courage. Tears pricked my eyes, and I realized that each story Lucy shared was a test for me, a chance to learn, to grow, to face my own fears. Through these stories, I was finding a part of myself I hadn't known existed. Lucy looked at me, her gaze kind. "You see, Jack," she said gently, "stories aren't just about learning words. They're about learning to see yourself, to understand your dreams and your fears. English is just a part of it. When you open your heart to a story, you open your heart to yourself and to others." I felt a warmth in my chest, a deep sense of gratitude. "Thank you, Lucy," I whispered, my voice filled with emotion. "You've given me so much more than just English. You've given me the courage to believe in myself." She smiled, reaching out to squeeze my hand. "The stories were always inside you, Jack. I just helped you find them." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over everything, I felt a peace I had never known before. The world seemed wider, fuller, more alive, and I knew that this was not the end but a beautiful beginning. There were more stories to discover, more dreams to chase, and I was ready for them, with my heart wide open. Turning to Lucy, I asked, "Will you keep reading with me?" She laughed, her eyes shining. "Jack, you don't need me to read for you anymore. You're ready to find your own stories now. And wherever they take you, remember you carry their magic in your heart." As she walked away, leaving me with the old book, I knew she was right. I was ready. I opened the book, took a deep breath, and let the journey begin.